He's Wright Thompson, ESPN senior writer, joining us from Augusta. What baseball hat do you have on there?
This is one of the Atlanta Braves minor league affiliates. So they were handed out minor league hats in the press room, so I had to find the closest to the Braves I could get.
All right, looks good. Are you in the press room right now?
I am, in fact, in the press room right now.
All right. Conditions and how will they affect today's golf, in particular, Tiger?
Well, I mean, it rained all night at our rental house. I mean, it was keeping everybody up. It was raining that hard, and it rained all this morning. Rays Creek is up. I mean, as you know, they have incredible technology here, so they can suck a lot of water out of the fairway, but it'll be a slog for the fans moving around. I mean, they can get the water off the course, but everything else will be a mud pit.
How's that going to affect Tiger?
I think anything that makes walking harder. I mean, I think cold in the morning is hard. I mean, he talked about that the other day, that, his leg is full of plates and rods and screws. And, there's something interesting and beautiful about watching his main opponent now just be the ravages of time and injury as opposed to other golfers. So, I mean, walking is hard for him.
You start to look at this, and it feels like it's an optimistic bet that the gamblers are saying that Tiger making the cut, Tiger winning. And one sports book in Vegas said the realistic odds are about 200 to 1. What chances would you give Tiger to win the Masters?
You learned a long time ago in professional sports writing that the rules are, every dinner is $24.99 and don't ever bet against Tiger Woods. And so, I mean, I would never do that. And, I look up at I'm looking right now at the people who are starting, and, I don't see a lot of guys who want to go head to head with Tiger on the back nine on Sunday if he can get there. So, I mean, 200 to 1, sure. I mean, 14 months ago, this guy was in a hospital bed. He stayed there for 3 months and then into a wheelchair and then into crutches and then a step, then 2 steps. So the fact that he's able to walk is staggering. And I feel like just seeing him show up here and walk around the course is a Herculean thing to see. I mean, I can't imagine him being in contention on Sunday, but if he is, he's very dangerous.
And you've done a deep dive on Tiger. We've talked about this before in some of your appearances. And you said something that stayed with me, and that is that Tiger, there was a stretch where he didn't like golf. He was great at golf, but he didn't like golf. Where is he now in his life, and what does golf mean to him?
I mean, I think he likes playing with his son. I think it's a very, very different game. I mean, the first you and I talked, I think it was, I don't remember the context, but we were talking about, what's he still playing for? And, until he won the Masters several years ago, you have to remember his kids had never actually seen him be Tiger Woods. They didn't remember that. He joked his kids thought he was a YouTube golfer. So, I mean, I think golf is something, he gets to do with his son now. His son came and played his practice rounds here at Augusta with him. It also, like, in some ways, the pain is probably the point more than the golf, the overcoming of it. It's more of a challenge for him to get out of that bed and walk again than it is to beat the current golfers. Like, the challenge, he's a challenge guy, like a lot of people we've covered over the years, Dan. And I mean, just, he said something Tuesday that really stuck with me, which is that, he would decide when it was over. And I think that has a lot to do with what we're watching.
You remember the first time you interviewed him?
Do I remember what?
Do you remember the first time you interviewed Tiger?
I remember I was here the year after he won, so in 2003, and he seemed so young and strong and invincible. I mean, that's what I remember. He walked in the room, I was like, this guy's jacked, and now the hairline is in full retreat. He's, has that big upper body, but he sort of walks like that. The guy walks around the gym and still thinks he's young. I mean, like he kind of has that walk, and he's a 46-year-old man. And the thing I'm curious about is, I'm excited to watch this today, but I'm curious, like, what is this about for him? I mean, I think if I could give him truth serum, that's what I'd want to know. Like, what is this exactly?
And you've talked about spending time and that he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. That was probably more important to him than whatever golf was going to bring to him.
Well,
right?
Yeah. I mean, like, we had the book out a couple years ago, The Cost of These Dreams, that has that story you're talking about, that Tiger story in it. And yeah, I mean, the through line between that and this is that the overcoming of pain and the overcoming of your own limitations in some ways is more interesting to him than getting around a golf course in less strokes than some of his current peers. I mean, one of the things he's been thinking a lot about, certainly, is Ben Hogan, who in 1949 was driving his Cadillac from Dallas to El Paso and through the ice and the fog, and a Greyhound bus tried to pass a truck and just hit him head on. I mean, it almost killed him. And then he almost died in the hospital from blood clots. And he came back. They didn't think he was going to walk again. And he came back a very diminished version of himself, in his opinion, but won 6 more majors. And, Tiger is very well aware that if he would have had his car wreck in 1949, he would not be playing today. But, he was very gracious in thanking the whole army of surgeons and physical therapists and physios. And, I mean, his peers now are people like Ben Hogan, not people like Dustin Johnson.
We're talking to Wright Thompson, ESPN senior writer, joining us from Augusta. I couldn't help but think of you when Urban Meyer was let go by Jacksonville, because you profiled him, and, he's wired differently. What happened? Are you surprised what happened in Jacksonville with Urban Meyer?
I mean, one of the things that's interesting as you write stories for a long time, some of them, if you're lucky, sort of become even more true as time goes by. And, that Urban story, I think, is in that collection as well, The Cost of These Dreams. But Urban is, when I left him at the end of that story, he felt like a person who was on a knife's edge and could go one of two ways. And, who was aware of his own worst impulses and was working and actually, in my opinion, at the end of that story, failing to control them. And clearly that seems like what's happened, that enabled, allowed to be the worst version of himself.
You've done so many profiles. I just read one that you did on Mike Krzyzewski called, Coach K's last march, or final march, I think.
Yeah.
Those kind of guys. Joe Paterno was going to coach until he died. Brent Musburger said that to me. Certain coaches, Bear Bryant, they're just guys, retirement scares people. Does retirement scare Coach K?
I don't think he thinks so, but I also don't think he fully appreciates what life will be like when he's no longer Coach K. I think he's tired. I think, like a lot of guys, he doesn't want to cheat the process, because the joy is in the process, not in the results. The joy of being a basketball coach is staying up all night with your assistants and ordering a 4 a.m. pizza and watching film. I mean, those quick turnarounds off tight travel schedules. So I think the grind is the job, as opposed to being something you endure to do the job. And I just don't think he could do it anymore. And I don't think he was willing to look at himself in the mirror, because, those assistant coaches would have covered for him forever. Like Joe Paterno's assistants covered for him. I mean, that was the thing no one wanted to say when all of that was going up, is that he hadn't actually been the head coach in a very long time. And that was not true with Coach K. I mean, he was fully in charge until the last horn blew. And I don't know what he's going to do in retirement, but I think he just couldn't do the job the way he knew it needed to be done.
Who do you think is going to win the Masters?
Oh, man, I'm looking right now. Honestly, I kind of think Rory McIlroy.
Whoa!
I have no factual.
Okay.
I'm fascinated by Rory. I don't know if you ever spent any time with him. I really haven't, but he seems like he is very, very self-aware and like understands the ways in which this matters and the ways in which it doesn't. So I don't know.
I
I'm certainly
enjoy
pulling for
Rory.
him.
He's one of my favorite interviews because
Me too.
he does give you, he thinks about what you're asking him and gives you an honest answer, or at least the appearance of an honest answer. And that's all we can ask for when we're doing, these interviews.
Well, just for someone to be engaged in the thought experiment of it all.
Yeah.
That like, I'm not the boogeyman. I have this question and let's try to figure out an answer to it.
Great to talk to you. I hope the family's good, and I still have to cross paths and have bourbon with you.
Oh, yeah. So Julian Van Winkle is in my master's house this week. He's here for the tournament. So he wanted me to ask you how much of that whiskey was left.
Tell Pappy I probably need another bottle of 15 if I can.
Well, yeah. Well, we'll tell Pappy as soon as you sell us a bunch more books, we'll get you another one.
Great to talk to you, Wright.
You too, man. Have a great day. Enjoy the tournament.
Thank you, buddy. Yeah, that's Pappy Van Winkle. And if you're a bourbon person, then you know about Pappy, and Pappy is very expensive.